everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life is Sing. We're so glad to be here with you tonight.
Yes, we are.
Real women, real talk, real life. And this is the last episode for season 2. God has allowed us to be faithful yet again over an assignment and the thing that He has called us to, and that is to empower and to inspire so that you will hopefully transform, be motivated, and continue on this journey to becoming, evolving, striving, thriving, and being the people that God has actually purposed us to be. So we'll just jump right into it. This is a recap of all the episodes, and we entitled this one tonight, All Things Work Together. All Things Work Together. I'm Mary. We have Erica and Rhonda. And one of the things that we have learned, Romans 8:28 tells us that and we know that all things work together for the good of them who love God, and we all love God on here.
Yes,
We
we
love God.
do.
For them that are called, that are the called according to His purpose. We all got a purpose. We all have a destiny. We all have a plan. We're all here for a reason. Purpose just simply speaks to what you were created to do, why you're still here, why are you still breathing, what are you still supposed to be doing in this season of your life. And so all things work together. Throughout this season, we talked about, and y'all might want to jot these down just in case I have a technical difficulty. We talked about confidence. We talked about perception and perspectives. We talked about small beginnings. We talked about releasing to receive. We talked about domestic violence. We talked about oppression. We talked about expiration dates. We talked about composure under pressure. And so those are some of the things that we're going to recap tonight, knowing and understanding the very thing. Like we said, all things are working together. Everything you've been through in your life, every struggle, every good time, every bad time, every ugly time, every time you thought you wasn't gonna make it, every time you thought you got knocked down and wasn't gonna get back up, every time the enemy came at you so hard you felt like you was gonna lose your mind, but you didn't. You still here, and even if you did lose it, you got it back. Glory to God. And
See
so
it.
it's all working together for your good. So the first episode, ladies, that we had for season 2, we talked about confidence. And we define confidence as being certain about the truth of something. We talked about confidence as being a feeling of assurance or an appreciation for your own worth, your own qualities, your own ability. And so I just want to start with you, Erica. What you got to say about confidence?
Man, you got to have confidence to do anything, to be successful. You got to know that you know that you know you can do it. And the only way you're going to get there is to believe in yourself. Start meditating that word on the inside of you, putting it out there in the atmosphere. Yes, I can. I can do it. And you're going to get that thing. You're going to keep it moving. You're going to achieve your goal. That's confidence right there. You know that you know that you
Yes,
know.
indeed.
All right, Rhonda. Confidence. Rhonda is
That's
a
it.
confident woman.
Yes, he is.
That's it. It starts from within. Look, hey, if you don't believe it, nobody else will.
That's right.
It starts from within. It starts like Erica was saying. Look, putting it out there in the atmosphere. Everybody knows that I'm big on confessions. So it's what's come out of your mouth. I truly believe that life and death is in the power of the tongue, and so I choose to speak life over myself. And when I do that, it builds me up internally, so I could be able to perform externally. So I do say, hey, look, build yourself up. It comes from within. If you don't believe it, nobody else will.
That's
All
it.
right. That puts you at Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ
Mm-hmm.
who strengthens
Yes.
me. No, you can't do it in your own might and your own power. But if you're
Mm-mm.
aligned correctly, if you're postured correctly, if you're purposing yourself to seek after God, you can get that thing
Mm-hmm.
done. That's where the
Right.
power
Yes.
comes from. That is the truth of the matter. I am who God says that I am.
That's
I'm the
it.
head and not the tail,
Done.
the lender, not the borrower. I'm rich. I'm not broke. You know,
That's it.
I'm a winner. I'm an overcomer. I'm more than a
That's
conqueror.
it.
You know, and you got to believe that. That's where that confidence comes from. So we also talked about perceptions and perspectives. When we define perception as the ability to see, to hear, or to be aware, it's an awareness. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about a perspective as your attitude or your point of view towards something. And one of the major things that we talked about when we talked about our perception and our perspective was that it's shaped by our life experiences, the things that we
Mm-hmm.
go through. And one of the things about being a believer in God is that we understand that we go through things in life, and all of them are not necessarily positive, although they're working for our good. But that's why we have to have the renewal of the mind, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can be transformed, you know, so that we can
Yeah.
understand that what we went through doesn't define where we're going and who we are in God, especially when it's not always the best of things. So what y'all got to say about perception and perspective tonight? Remind the people.
With perspective and your perception, like you was talking about renewing of the mind, keeping your mind focused. And I was brought to you're thinking about, if we keep our mind stayed on him, that he would keep us in perfect peace. And one thing about our perception, if we are not if we don't have peace from within, it's coming out. Okay.
It's good. You good. You good. You good.
If we don't have peace from within, that whole thing distorts how we view things, who we are at our very core, at our very being. If that's disrupted, if that is at a state of being, how to put it, if that is at a state of being disturbed or feeling inadequate, or if it's feeling if it's in a state of being insecure, you're going to view things that way. So that it all starts from within, how your perspective and the things that you have allowed yourself to go through, or things you had to go through, it shapes that because of what's from within, what you have allowed yourself to internalize, and it shapes you, as a person. And so therefore your perception is going to come from whatever is within. And so the whole focus is to make sure that you're keeping yourself lined up, that you're letting go like we supposed to, that we're able to give grace where grace is needed. All things are to keep ourselves at peace, so we'll be able to perceive things the way it should be perceived.
Got to see it the way God sees it. Go ahead, Erica.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good what Rhonda was saying, how you take something in and how you perceive it. I think it's really important. Truth is important. You have
Yes.
to accept the truth from
Mm-hmm.
within. You have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, even if it is you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
accept this ugly part of me. I don't like it, but I got
Mm-hmm.
to do something about it. That's the only way I'm going to be able to look at you and say and perceive you right, and to take what you're saying to me right, because I have to come in to realize what is it about me that makes me view people a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you may have to admit I got some jealousy or envy issues in me. I have some insecurities in me, and that's what's caused me to hate my sister or my brother, that homegirl over there who's doing good, or that guy over there. You have to come to terms with who you are. Come to reckon with it. You got to look in the mirror. No matter how good or how bad, how ugly, you got to face the truth. And that's the only way you're going to see the truth, is if you admit the truth to yourself. So I think the truth, you're going to be free in it, and you just acknowledge it and walk in the truth. And that's the only way you're going to see straight, if you acknowledge the truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next, we talked about small beginnings. And we said, the Bible tells us in Zechariah 4:10 to despise not the day of small beginnings. And the most important part of that for me is, and the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. Start
Yes.
where you start. Do it the way
Mm-hmm.
you do it, from where you are on your level. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because God is going to rejoice in you even walking in your purpose. Okay, she trusted me now. Okay, he moving in me
Yeah.
now. Okay, he's
Yeah.
seeking me now. Okay, she's obedient to me now. Okay, she's fully submitted to me now. She's giving her life over to me now. She's working this thing. You know, the Holy Ghost is allowing the Holy Ghost to move, and God is rejoicing in it. And He's adding grace to your life, and momentum to your life, and motivation to your life. And you begin to walk and move in the things of God. And you don't have to look at somebody else and compare yourself to somebody else and wonder what somebody else is doing, because you start where you start. If it's small, it's small. It don't have to be big. You know, it don't have to be grand, but it has to be a start somewhere. It didn't say God
Yes.
said start small. God said start. God said do this way. No, He wants to see you get started. He wants to see you bust a move. So what you waiting
Okay.
on? It's time to move. I think that's why I said it's time to shoot your shot. It's
That's
time to
it.
get started. You know, it's time to move into things of God. But whichever one of y'all want to take that small beginnings. Despise not the day of small beginnings.
Yeah, I think it's great when you start something, the gratification and the satisfaction you have when you get started on a project and then
Uh-huh.
you start rolling in that thing and you start picking up momentum, things start falling into place. And before you know it, you at the finish line, and just that satisfaction that you have, and you can turn around and look and say, hey, I did that. And not only did I do that, God empowered me to do that thing. So just the satisfaction of achieving a goal, of getting started, that's just awesome. So I think it's just so important that don't despise your small beginnings. Even though it may seem small right now, you're not making any changes. That's what it appears to you. Keep on rolling in that thing. The momentum's going to pick up. Don't get discouraged along the way. Keep pushing till you see the end of the road, see the light, and you've reached the finish line.
All
Yes,
right, Brother
indeed.
Robbie.
And look, y'all know, I love to see things come together. That's my whole thing. And I love to know why and how things operate,
Yes,
even
you
when it
do.
comes to people. So that I have always been intrigued by that. I can remember as a little girl, like things would tear up and I would take it apart, just to see, what was in there, or to see even if I could fix it. I can remember working on a radio that I loved. But the thing, but what, Erica?
I got a story. You just go on, finish.
Okay,
Let's talk about
but
you.
the thing about that is, when it comes to our lives, a lot of times we don't. Um, we want to abort. We don't want to start with the small beginnings because that causes us to go through and have growing pains, or we have to experience uncomfortable places, or the unknown, the unfamiliar. So a lot of us would love to step in, boom, and it's already done. But the thing about God is he's always creating. We are always creating. I was thinking about the scripture when it says, and you shall know the truth, and people would say set you free, but it says make you free. So it's a continuous thing. You're continually being made. And so even with us, if we put in our hands to a business, if we put our hands to going back to school or anything like that, you got to start somewhere. But it's
Right.
all a part of the making process. And so, yeah, you're going to go through some growing pains. Yeah, you're going to experience setbacks and things of that nature, but it's all going to work together. It's all a part. It's all a part of that purpose. And even with having an entrepreneur spirit, for people that want to start a business or people that's in business, you can't run a business if you don't know how it works.
True.
So you can't just go in, boom, I'm the owner. You gotta know. if you don't know from the ground on how this operates, you have set yourself up for failure. You have set yourself up for someone to steal from you and even destroy what you have built, what you don't worked hard for. So it's important to embrace those small beginnings. It's important to know that, hey, it's starting this way, but we all know that we serve a God that does what? Exceedingly, abundantly, above all we can even ask a thing. So if he placed something in our spirit, know that it's going to be bigger than what you can even perceive or even think that you can handle.
That's
All
it.
right.
That's it.
Amen.
And just kind of when you start talking, Ron, it made me think about that time we were in a parking lot at a social gathering, and somebody locked their keys in the car. And there were about 10 men in that parking lot trying to get the keys out of that car. Me and you were standing back watching these guys who were so knowledgeable, not knowing that you were a daughter of a mechanic and not knowing you had these small beginnings. You knew all this stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree mechanic. But anywho, we watching these guys stress over trying to open in this car door, and Rhonda back here saying, well, if there's another car on the lot, same model, usually the key works for the same car. And guess what? They didn't want to listen to poor little Rhonda, the little woman over there, daughter of a mechanic. Guess what? Didn't they find a key of the same model car, and they popped that car lock open?
It was something to it. I can't remember the whole thing.
But whatever it was, you had the answer, and they didn't want to listen to you because I guess you was a woman, you didn't know what you was talking about. 10 men fretting, but Rhonda had the answer. So they didn't look at her small beginnings. They didn't ask, how did you know that? We just sit back chilling in the cut like, hey, they're going to figure it out one day. And Rhonda had the brilliant idea, and they didn't want to listen.
And that's
so
the thing about
she
you picking up little pieces and little lessons throughout your whole process.
Yes.
Even if you grew up in the project, even if you grew up in the country, even if you grew up in the city limits, even if you grew up in a single parent home, 2-parent, however you came up, you will learn things from the time you were born.
Right.
And a lot of those things can help you in your difficult times, in times when you're trying to problem solve, because you have that ability. And because you gain that knowledge, from your experiences and your small beginnings. So don't despise small beginnings. Then we went on and we talked about releasing to receive, letting it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Just a side note, every time Aaliyah would watch Frozen, when I said he would cry. He hated that movie. He hated it. But and that was one of the lessons I had to learn in life: how to let stuff go, how to release. I just want to hold on and maintain everything, maintain the relationships, maintain
Lord,
connection, maintain it, just holding all this stuff, even though it's not good for me. Not believing what's right in front of my eyes, not believing what people have already shown me about who they are, just holding on, So that's one of them bout sense type of lessons. Sometimes we have to let things go, and it don't have to be that it's negative or it's bad. Right. It's just about transitioning and moving and growing and getting to the next level or doing what you need to do to progress, but letting it go. Erica,
I just see these pictures and these scenarios. People have a tendency to hold on to things where they perceive were the best times in their life. I had the best time of my life. This is my favorite outfit, so I'm gonna wear it from here on for the next 20 years. Well, guess what? It's not out of style. It don't look good no more. You look crazy. Some people have hairstyles or outfits and all this stuff that is not compatible with the time you're in. So you got to let that go. I know in 73, you were the best ball player. And I know in 85, you're the best break dancer. But we don't do that stuff no more. So you have to come up in the world. No, Mary, we're not pop locking tonight, okay? Or we're not snaking. But you got to release it. Time has marched on. Walk in your new. The Lord doesn't want you to stay back pop locking. You got to come up in the world. I ain't saying you got to be Beyonce and all, but you got to go into the new place God has you in, because if you stay back here, you're gonna get stuck and you're gonna look odd and you are not gonna fit. And not that we're trying to fit into the world, but we want to fit in the mold that God already created for us to fit into our destiny to get there. So you're gonna have to let some stuff go. Or you're going to be the oddball.
All right. You can't be the snake no more. What's up?
Well, that's an area I really don't struggle with a lot. Letting go.
Let it go.
Sometimes I might let go too fast, because I just believe in when the time is up, it's up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you're no longer feeling it, you just ain't feeling it. You know, and it's for a reason. But I do say this though. I am always reminded of the thing about letting go is never an ending. And people always think of it as an ending and to be all that this is it. But it's actually you letting go for new beginnings or something new, to embrace something new. And our greatest example is our God, is our Father. You know, He gave His Son for what? For new life. So we always need to keep that in mind. You know, letting go is not actually us losing something, but it's gaining what we can gain. And look at what all we gained when he did that. So just think about even with our own lives, when we learn that hey, it's time to let go, so I can embrace something else.
Right.
You know, it's
That's
if a lot of us would take that approach and really think that way, it's so much we could accomplish, so much that we can allow in our lives that could help us or help propel us to that next of what we need. You know, some of us won't, we can't find the right connections because we don't want to let go, you know, of the connections that I grew up with. You know, it's okay. You know, all connections aren't divine. It's okay. And that don't mean you gotta fall out. Like Mary said, you ain't gotta fall out with the person. It's just it's time to go. It's okay to embrace somebody else. You know, and if there was a time when, hey, me and Mary would call each other every morning, or Mary would call me every morning around by 7
I was
o'clock
going to.
or so, you know.
I was going to.
But hey, we don't do that now. But am I sitting back saying, oh, now why Mary ain't call me? My Mary, you should have called me. You call me like you never do. No, I have embraced that. Hey, that was for that time. That was
right.
for that
Right.
season. You know, she is doing something else now, and whether it's if she's talking to someone else or whether she's paying more attention to her family, whatever she's doing, or she might be working, that's that time now. It's okay. It's okay. We have other times and it's other people. You know,
Right.
it's other things that you can embrace and let into your life. So just know it's okay to let go. You gain other things. It's a way to be able to accept and open up for other things.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I like what Tasha said. Yeah.
go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Erica.
Oh, what Tasha said. And if you learn something by letting go, it will always be a part of your new, but in a positive way. And I think
Mhm.
that is so true, Tasha. That is right.
Mhm. I
Yes,
forgot to
indeed.
put on the list about burning bridges. We talked about burning bridges, letting go, releasing to receive. So I forgot that one.
Don't
Burn
forget the best
bridges.
one.
Oh
Burn, baby, burn.
sometimes it's some paths you ain't gonna cross again.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
there's sometimes there's some things that when it's over.
It's over.
You know, and so we have to accept that and move on. I don't know if y'all got anything you want to say about burn bridges, but I did forget about that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Number burn, baby, burn.
Burn, baby,
It's okay.
burn. Yeah. And just think when that bridge is burnt and that soot is collective and goes into the ground, it creates a fertile soil for something else great to grow. Because some things are meant to be burnt
Yeah.
There
just
you
so
go.
something new can come out of it. That's the
All
way to
right.
look at it.
We talked about domestic violence, which we
Mhm.
know that affects so many people in so many ways in different communities. It doesn't matter about your socioeconomic status, whether you church the unchurched, whatever you might believe in, where how you were raised, and what kind of job you have, and how many degrees you have or don't have. But it is a real
Mhm.
issue in our community. And being a domestic violence survivor, as Erica is, that's an inspiration for a lot of people. I don't know if you have anything you
Yes.
want to say, just to inspire people just for a second, and then we're gonna go
Right.
to the next thing. But
And domestic violence is not limited to physical, slapping, hitting, that type thing. It's emotional too. And a lot of people don't realize that if somebody, they don't have to necessarily call you out your name. If they're being mean to you, hateful, belittling, cutting you down, that is abuse.
Mhm.
And it should not be tolerated, accepted in any form, fashion, length, or time, period. And I've learned also that abusers do things because they are allowed to do it, and once you stand up and say no, Even there, if there is a confrontation, you have to, get to a place of safety and make a decision that, hey, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to live this way. So the most important thing is to make a decision. What are you going to do? And
Yeah.
you don't have to take it.
Mhm.
You got
That's
anything,
it.
Rhonda?
Nope. I'm with Erica. And you know what? I do have something to say. I do. When I, I do. When I saw the interview of Erica, I was just thinking of the fact of, that's really the representation of how God wants us to live. And when I say that is when you go through something, we really are to become testimony, a testimony. We are supposed to inspire others. When you truly have overcome what you have went through, you're able to openly speak about it. And so that was a great example of her being able to openly speak. And we all know that she has held position in churches and things of that nature. And, a lot of times we are shunned on that because of the fact that we are, connected to a church or an institution. But my thing is this, look how many more people could be free if we would just really be truthful about what we have experienced or what we have overcome. But so
Right.
I want to say, Erica, wow, I applaud you for really just stepping out and being that vessel to help others. And I'm excited to see where God is going to take you with it.
Glory to God. It's all due to Him.
Yes.
And you're never alone. Just to encourage people, you're never alone. And there's always somebody to help. If you find yourself in a situation, you're never alone.
We've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Lord.
When you're
Mhm.
truly delivered, you can speak about it. When you're healed, you can
Yes.
speak about it. When you're free, you can
Mhm.
speak about it. And it's not to
Yes.
downgrade or low rate anybody else, but it's to bring other
Right.
people out. God
Okay.
didn't save you for you not to bring somebody else out. He ain't been good to you and graced you the way he has and blessed you the way he has for you not to bring other people out. So hey,
Yes.
win those souls for God, bring those people
That's
out,
it.
inspire those women and
Mhm.
men who are going
Hmm.
through, because men go through it too. And
Right.
I wish you well and blessings to you in all your endeavors as you continue on
Yes.
your crusade to help people that need to be helped.
Mm.
And
Yes,
look,
Lord.
hey, look, Mary, and going back to this is just her small beginning.
Right.
We
Right.
know this is not the end. We know this is not the only thing she's going to be talking about. This is a great small beginning that we're seeing right before our eyes.
Right.
And people are
I'm
being
glad to
helped
be
and
a
she's
part of
gotten
it.
positive feedback. People have already been helped. People have already made decisions to come out of their domestic violence situation. So God is already showing her. He's already moving,
Yeah.
and people are already making those decisions to change their life and potentially save their life. So
Yes.
kudos to you, Erica, and may the Lord continue to bless you, keep you, and strengthen you as you
Yes.
move forward in everything that He has for you in your life. I'm proud of you,
God be the
girl.
glory. Mhm.
And so
Thanks
that
you.
brings us to oppression. We talked about oppression. Oppression is
Oppression.
when you're burdened or something is restraining you or causing you to feel distress.
Mm.
Oppression. And one of the things that I said about oppression, I said oppression dictates your life. It
Hmm.
tells you what to do, whether it's somebody that's oppressing you, a situation that's oppressing you.
Hmm.
I talked about relationships. Sometimes the dynamics in relationships and circles of people who we connect to can have us oppressed. Well, we are not
Hmm.
free. We are now bound by whatever they say we should be, how we should act, what we should purchase, how we should dress, the trips we should go on, what we should post on social media. You ain't free. You ain't happy. You ain't you. You're not your best self. You've lost yourself, and that's what oppression represents to me. It's when you lose yourself, for whatever reason. So, Rhonda, speak to oppression for me.
My main point with when we was talking about oppression, I kind of came from like as leaders and leadership, when you experience oppression from that, and I just want to kind of reiterate on that. Any when you're leading somebody, you're supposed to lead from a place of freedom. And then is the when a leader doesn't lead from a place of freedom, that means that they are oppressed or bound by something.
Right.
And most of the time, also there is rooted there. They start to operate in witchcraft and don't even know it a lot of times, because that's the whole
Absolutely.
point of oppression. Oppression is to what? Is to oppress a person so I can get the outcome out of that person that I want. And that is all witchcraft is. That's why people use witchcraft, is to get the results that they want. So you have to be very careful, like when you're sitting under leadership, or when you even like connected to organizations, even jobs, when you feel oppressed, like Mary was saying, they telling you what to do, or who you can't conversate with, who you can't talk to. Come on, that's oppression at its finest. And when it causes you to lose who you truly are, when you can't make a decision on your own, you know, you are oppressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are oppressed. And so that's my only thing. Know what is really rooted in, where it's grounded, what people are coming from. And just know that, if you're sitting under oppression, there's no way that you can truly live out and ever be who you truly called to be, because oppression would never allow it, because it's always about their outcome,
Right.
their motive.
Mm. Mm.
Go ahead, Eric.
You said a mouthful there. I mean, how can you move forward if you stuck in the past? How can you move forward if you stuck in one place? How can you move forward if something is always sitting heavy on your head, keeping you down?
Mhm,
Figure out what that thing is that's holding you down and just move forward.
mhm.
Just move forward with your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we don't want to be oppressed. We want to be free.
Show enough.
Free,
Free
Show you
indeed.
right.
free. And it's a
Expiration
difference
date.
too. It's a difference too if you ever, been oppressed by anything, which
Yeah.
majority of us have. You
Yeah.
know, when you do become free, it's
Mm.
just such a, I mean, you just feel lighter, don't you? You just feel like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm talking about is just you feel like you can run, and you ain't look
Uh-huh.
like run, Forrest, run. I mean, you really, you really feel free. Like I could just see him when he breaking out of those verses. But that's how you feel. You feel
You
like,
feel
man, I could keep going.
energized.
Yes. When you ever have been oppressed, and then once you have had that feeling, you know how to identify it. And to never go back to that.
That's right.
Yeah, and that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that no, you don't submit to any kind of leadership authority or anything of that nature, but just submit to one that's of freedom.
Yes. 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 Mm.
Expiration date was the next topic we talked about. And when we talk about expiration dates, we're talking about when a time when something loses its effectiveness. It loses its quality. Sometimes we operate in expired instructions, assignments, connections, and seasons. And so we have to make sure that we are in the timing of God, understand that everything has a purpose and everything has its time and a season. And so
Time
we
and
have
a
to make sure that
season.
we're aware of that and that we're not operating past an expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing if you're operating in something that's expired, it's not going to function properly. It's going to break down eventually. If it's a relationship and it's an end, it's supposed to come to an end, it's not going to work properly. You're going to have friction in there, whether it's a job, personal relationship, whatever. So you have to know what season you're in and make sure that you're functioning properly in every season.
Mm-hmm. And when I think about the expiration date, you think of food. How it expires. It when food expires, it doesn't mean that the bread wasn't still bread. It just means that now it can become toxic to your body
Right.
or toxic to you. And so the thing about that is when things have expired, you know, it can become toxic.
Yeah.
You can cause yourself, it can cause yourself to either be literally sick, okay, when you're
Mhm.
functioning in things that are inspired. You don't have the grace anymore. You know, you don't even have your mind, you can't even focus in your mind when you're trying to focus, or operate in your own strength. Because that's what you begin to do when you're operating in things that are expired. And so just know that these could become toxic and it could be detrimental to you if you continue to operate in expired situations, expired relationships, even with your career.
Mhm.
When it's time for you to move on. When it's time for you to do better. You do. And then you have some people that will stay there in an expired position because they're comfortable with that
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they know what this is.
Mhm.
And then they wind up either losing the job eventually, because one thing
Yeah.
about it is if it's not meant for you to be there, you're gonna be moved one way or the other. Is whether you
Right.
want to willingly move, and then have the ability to move on from that position, or you
Yeah.
want to be forced out, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to be forced out.
Right.
So just
Volunteer.
know
Yeah. Just like Mother said, she got the gun. It's either gonna be voluntarily or involuntarily. Take your
involuntary,
pick. Yeah.
which can become toxic. You
Right.
can find
Mhm.
yourself in toxic situations. So yeah,
Absolutely. So the last thing we talked about was composure under pressure. Keeping it
that was a great
together.
one.
Yeah.
Gotta keep yourself together.
hmm
Gotta hold it down. You can't get out of character. It's a
Yeah.
setback. Every time you get out
hmm
of character, it's a setback. You show out, it's a setback. You go back to your old way, it's a setback. And when you
Mhm.
get tired of
hmm
cycles and starting over, you're gonna discipline yourself enough and have enough self-control to keep your composure.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
Add to it, girls, if y'all got something.
Well, don't lose it. Don't do it. Don't cuss them out. Don't slap them. Don't punch them in the throat. Just hold it down. It's gonna
That's
be all
it.
right.
That's it.
Mhm. And
And
just think
know
of the
that,
consequences.
and then know that too, if you're placed in a position to where you feel like you have to react in that way, that pressure, when pressure is being applied, know that it's making you. It's for a reason, and it's either, like they say, either make you or it's going to either break you. And you don't want to be broken, go back to your old stuff like Mary just said, and cussing somebody out and doing all this other stuff. No, you want it to make you. And so that's the thing. Realize that when pressure is being applied, it's to make or to break you. But which one are you going to let it do?
Right. Build your character. Hmm.
Absolutely. And so all of this was done here in season 2 in 10 episodes, all things working together for the good of those who love God. For all of us who are called according to his purpose, you got a purpose, you got a reason for being here, you got something to
Mm-hmm.
do. You need to get on it. Don't despise the small beginnings. Keep your composure, hold yourself together, release what you need to release, burn the bridges you need to burn, receive what God has for you.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it moving when you need to keep it moving. Do the things that you need to do. Make sure you're not functioning in expired assignments. Make sure you check that perception and your perspective, and make sure that you have the confidence that is needed so that you can do the things that God would have you to do. And remembering that you can do all things through Christ who
Mm-hmm.
strengthens you. It's
Yes.
in Him
Yes,
that you
indeed.
live, that you move, and that you have your being. Hey,
Yes.
Velma.
Hey, Velma.
Hey,
You
Velma.
can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. It's
Yes.
all working together. Some of us might be in the best time of our life. Some of us, this is the worst time. We can't ignore what's happening around us, but we can't let it get in us. When it starts to get in you and seep in and you start to internalize, it starts to break you down. So you got to make sure that you keep yourself focused, put yourself in a
Yes.
place where you can have peace,
Mhm.
and make sure that you continue to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Closing remarks, ladies.
Yeah, I want to say something, talking about keeping your peace. And, I just recently went through a situation, even with, and which y'all know, even with one of my businesses, is about pay. And it
Mhm.
was a great time that I could have just really lost my composure because I have other people depending on me for their money. And so my thing was, and when she was talking about maintaining position, yeah, I had my moment. I felt like I was about to throw up. You hear me?
Mm, that's
My
real.
whole thing, because my whole thing is, I my word is my bond. I like to stay by whatever I had said, do what I said I was gonna do. You know, my character, my integrity is important to me. And so
Yes.
I was just like, oh my gosh. But I had my little moment, but then I realized who I was.
Yeah.
I realized what authority I had within me and started to confess, pray. Now, in the midst of me doing that, and what it was they were saying that we weren't going to get our pay till another pay period, which is going to be probably like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. So, my thing is this: even in the midst of me praying and believing God, I still did other things in the midst of that. I sent emails. I did everything else that I needed to do. Well, long story short, this week they received their money, so we ain't gotta wait till another paper. But my thing is, if I had a crumbled under pressure and just weak, in the fact that, hey, this happened to me. Instead of realizing who I was and what authority I had, that I had the power to speak those things that be not as though they were, that I can
Yes.
stand in my position. Because when you realize when pressure comes, it's coming to destroy. It's either, like we said, make or break you, right? And so the whole thing about it is when she was talking about your peace, sometimes when pressure is applied, it can disturb your peace.
Yes,
And
Lord.
if you let it, and it's up to you, if you let it, that pulls you out of position.
Mhm.
And so then you won't have the stamina to really stand in that authority. But when you have that snapback and you realize whose
Oh,
you are and who you are, that's when you have that ability to stand in the midst of that pressure and really
yes.
declare what you know is yours. And so my thing is this: as the results, we did get our pay. They got their pay, and all things work together.
Absolutely. And just real quick, Mary, I just want to interject where Rhonda was talking about the peace, and you're talking about peace in the times ahead, in the days ahead. Just think it's so important. You got to maintain your peace. You have to be protective of your peace. You got to get to the place where I'm not going to let anybody, anything, nobody to disturb my peace. And if you're getting in the way of it, we're gonna do some separation. But like Rhonda said, if you don't have that peace within, if you're not settled within your mind with your own confidence and who you are, and you're not at peace with that, nothing around you is gonna work properly. So, in the times we're going through right now, keep your peace.
Mhm.
You have to make sure you have peace within of who you are. Maintain the peace of
Yeah,
mind. Be protective. Be
I
protective of
always
your
say
peace.
my peace costs too much.
Yes, ma'am. It does.
That's a whole nother.
Mm. If you got to steal away, if you got to go in a room, close the door for 24 hours, that's what you do. But keep this right up here. Keep your peace right.
Absolutely. So y'all, I have enjoyed this second season of Life is Saints, and we'll be back in 2021 because we about to take a break and do some things and get before God. All of us have a lot of things in the works, and so um, it takes preparation. It goes well beyond a vision board part. So don't think you just go to the vision board part. No, you got to get before God. You got to posture yourself.
Right.
You got to
Thank
get the strategies down. And so you have to put yourself in a place where you got to focus.
you. Right.
You can see those things
Mhm.
manifest that you put on that vision board.
Right.
So this has been Life is Saint, real women, real talk, real life. And y'all have a blessed night. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. See you next year.